Hi, welcome once again to the Revelation, where we are looking at the book of Revelation, but we're taking it in big chunks, not a detailed verse-by-verse breakdown. We are not looking for a lot of specifics in the wording, but we are looking at themes. And in this episode, we're in Revelation chapter 12, verses 1 through 4. It says this: "A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its head. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to the earth, and the dragon stood in front of the woman who was about to give birth so that it might devour her child the moment he was born." Wow. If you've never taken the time to read that portion of Revelation, go back and look at it again and read it a lot slower. And you read that and you walk away going, whoo, what in the world is going on there? And I completely understand that. See, the Bible tells us, although we can't see it, there is a great war that's being waged in the heavens. And that war has an impact on our lives, and it takes place in what takes place here on earth. In Revelation 12, we get a behind-the-scenes look at the warfare, a glimpse, if you will, from heaven's perspective. The key combatants are God and Satan, along with their heavenly armies, the angels, and the humans that are carrying out the conflict being waged in that supernatural realm here on earth. First, we're introduced in that passage to a woman who represents Israel. That's described by the Old Testament prophets as a woman in labor. In Revelation 12, she gives birth to a child. That child is representative of the Lord Jesus. And we know that Christ comes from this Jewish nation. The woman, Israel, is the one whom an enormous red dragon, Satan, seeks to destroy. So, inspired by this description of a dragon, modern caricatures of the devil sometimes portray him with horns and a tail. But Revelation 12:3 isn't meant to be a literal description of his appearance. The term dragon is a symbolic reference to this vile, cruel, and calculating creature in his nature. The red color represents war, bloodshed, and death that follows him everywhere he goes, because for Satan, that always is the way that he operates. And so in a day and age where sometimes we've sanitized a lot of things, especially evil, that's not the case. And that's not the symbolism that God gives us. Satan is to be taken very, very seriously. We're told here in Revelation 12:4 that Satan had once swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. And that refers to that epic event as Satan made his big power play and tried to take over heaven and went to war with God and took a third of the angels with him. And so in the scene, the dragon is set to devour the Christ who's about to be born. And we see that Satan's purpose now has been always to destroy Christ, because in destroying Christ, you destroy God and the plan of God. As C.S. Lewis once observed, there is no neutral ground in the universe. Every square inch, every split second is claimed by God and then immediately counterclaimed by Satan. And we're not helpless bystanders, because we're either followers of God or we're not. And as a follower of God, then we are automatically a part of this army of God that is having to go to war for the world and the culture that we find ourselves in. And if we're not a follower of Christ, then guess what side you're on? You're on the side of the enemy. Ephesians 6:13, not Revelation, but Ephesians 6:13 says, "Put on the full armor of God so that when the day comes, you'll be able to stand your ground." There is an enemy out there. In Revelation 12, we see the enemy vividly described. It's a strange description, yes. Is it enough to scare you? Could be. Do you have to be scared? No. Because the book of Revelation is there to inform us. When we read it, we're blessed. And God gives us a glimpse of the end so that we know that we don't have to fear the future. So don't be afraid. And I look forward to joining you on our next edition of the Revelation.